Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, put them in a pod, send them through all kinds of colorful, weird wormholes to a place where we don't know what's neither here nor there. We are a show that talks about movies we like, and then, that's what we do.
And then talks about the science behind them.
Yeah.
That's the show.
So I'm Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and priest who just couldn't not get it.
That's good. Alex Dandino.
Before today's just baffling episode.
I can't wait to read you my note on that beat specifically.
That's right. We'll get to it. A little business, people. It's official. We're on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. If you want more of this just whip crack razor sharp intros, you got to go to patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. The best place to help us grow this show. But you also have a treasure trove, right? Like that lion's head in the desert in Aladdin. It's just a treasure trove waiting for you. And you can touch. And you can touch for the right price. We're that kind of whore.
It's true.
This is like an insane intro this morning. Sorry.
Just imagine thousands of pages of text that are deciphered.
Hold on.
From a video.
We've had an emotional day, so it's going to be a wild one.
That's the Patreon for you.
Yeah. But we have a huge Patreon library over there of exclusive episodes. We have miniseries, we have commentary, we have all kinds of awesome stuff over there. We work really hard to make that fun and worth your while. So if you go over to patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod, we'd appreciate it. Make sure you support the show by subscribing to the YouTube Film Alchemist. Email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the social media you're on. Now there's even new social medias we're supposed to be on. That's always fucking awesome. Great for that.
Yeah.
Also,
apparently we're supposed to be on Threads and Blue Sky.
Oh my God.
Bing. Who knows?
I'm excited about that. Let me put it that way. Also, if you'd be so kind, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review anywhere and everywhere you find the pod. Helps us defeat the algorithmic scientific dick that withholds our funding and steals our credit. Neither here nor there. I'm not sure if you guys have already picked up on what we're putting down. Today for our Aliens Invade the Pod month, which this is the weirdest kind of an alien invasion movie. We're talking about Robert Zemeckis' Contact. Now, I remember this movie from when I was a kid. And I remember it not interesting me at all when my parents we have a movie we think you'll like because you like Star Wars. And then they proceed to play the longest fucking movie of my childhood, Contact. Mm-hmm. This movie is such a baffling set of choices. It's this bizarre fucking series of decisions, but anchored by just this one of the best performances of her career by Jodie Foster. Just this really compelling story of this woman who becomes the avatar for humanity in a movie that constantly reminds us how much we all should just let aliens come down and clear us off the face of the earth. Mm-hmm. Just a baffling set of choices, this film. So, Alex, opening thoughts on Contact, which you picked. You had something you wanted to talk about with this movie. So, Contact.
I did, yeah. Contact, I was actually really excited to see this movie in the theaters. I didn't know what it was about. Mm. I saw the trailer for it when we saw another movie. I was like, whoa. That's some shit. There's some fucked up shit that could happen. It was around the time, so I've told this story on the show before, but my dad, my Independence Day story is my dad woke me up at 10 o'clock at night, the night when the day that Independence Day premiered. I was in school. My dad woke me up the night it premiered, and he was like, "Hey, let's go see a movie." I was like, "What? It's 11. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm not gonna be able to go to school." He's like, "Yeah, you will. You'll go to school in the morning, but let's go see Independence Day." So okay. So we woke up and went to the movie theater near Noblesville for an 11:45 showing of Independence Day. It was a really special memory for me and my dad. Pretty sure I saw the trailer for Independence Day. Maybe I don't remember the timeline, to be honest with you. But because I had seen Independence Day, I was like, "Fuck, dude, alien movies rule." I like this movie. I do genuinely like this movie. I think it's a fun, general application of the real world application of what would happen if we had some sort of experience like this, because yeah, like it does show how woefully unprepared the entire human race is for like any sort of contact from another planet. The religious implications, the scientific implications, the whole thing. Jodie Foster is very good. However, yes, there are several choices that I'm not entirely sure I could explain, let alone, and I never read the book. I bought the book right after I saw this movie. I bought the book. Didn't really understand it when I was a kid. Reading it was not a good idea when I was a kid, because I was just like, it wasn't as exciting. Because I don't know about you, like a couple of times I would buy the book after I'd see the movie when I was young, and not understand that it's not like an exact replica. It's not that kind of thing. So that was always like that was always like one of those hurdles for me, and especially for Contact, because it's a Carl Sagan novel. Right. Carl Sagan writes very differently than most writers. Like, it's not like going to a Stephen King movie and then reading a Stephen King book.
Sure, I'm sure somewhere in his mind, his imaginings were fascinating, right? And probably like listening to him tell us that over a Frasier-style brandy would be great. This is one of the worst fucking screenplays for a major, like this was a major movie, right? Like
Michael Hart wrote it.
Everyone wanted to see this. This is one of the worst screenplays that I have sat and bared witness to. And especially a guy like Zemeckis, right? He's at the pinnacle of his powers, right? You can see the giant, enormous machinery of this movie operating, right?
Yeah.
The thought that no one just sat down for even an hour and is like, hey, can we kick some things around in this script? Like, can we just, kick the tires and see if, like, the rear view window fall? This script is so fucking egregiously bad, right? And I do think this script is a little bit helped now that we're watching this in a post-pandemic world, where we 100% specifically saw, because watching scenes in this movie reminded me of like, oh yeah, we do just fucking suck, right? Yeah. It, like, as people are trying to figure out this thing that like we're barely able to comprehend, right, at a national level, right? There is a pandemic that is deadly. It's going to require us to change some things. We don't have all the scientific data now. We're going to have to learn with the general public. Can we all get on the same page? And we were all kind of like, well, I'd like to like not go to work for a week or two. And then after that, everyone just said, fuck you. And everyone went ape shit. Joe Rogan all of a sudden becomes our national James Woods. It was an insane time to live through. We are like, oh, we are just never going to ever get on the same page. So I think this movie was ahead of its time in kind of capturing our buffoonery. Yeah. Right? Well, because there's a line in the movie, and this is like the way I would sum up this entire movie. Because it still has this very like Christian white American mind space, right? But there's a line in the movie where fucking Rob Lowe or James Wood, one of the douchey conservatives, I can't remember, but he just goes, we don't know if, I think it was James Woods, right? Or no, it was Rob Lowe. It was in their cabinet meeting when they first start getting
Rob
the message.
Lowe is Rob Lowe does this like.
But no, this is the line I want to say though, right? Is they're just like, we don't know if this is a Trojan horse. We don't know what they want. And then one of them goes, and we don't know if they believe in God. And you go, yeah, that's why we as a species are a fucking embarrassment. Like, half of our own planet or more doesn't believe in our white Americanized Coca-Cola God. Like, the thought that they're just like, we don't know if the aliens believe in God instead of God being instantly shattered. That's exactly where we are as a species.
The crux. That is the crux of the argument in the movie, like most of it. And I mean, it starts in a very surreptitious way, which is, I think this is the strangest, this truly is the weirdest part of the movie. And this is a movie that has a lot of weird shit. So you're introduced to Jodie Foster's character, who's basically, she's this math genius who has decided to dedicate her lives to the search for extraterrestrials, essentially. So she works for SETI, which is the
Search for Extraterrestrial Life Institute, something like that. Yeah.
Institute, basically the stone cold pack of weirdos who look for aliens on a daily basis. Not a bad thing. Like, it's literally pure. It's, as she says in the beginning of the movie, like, what's wrong with pure research? It's research for research's sake, rather than like science being profitable, which is Tom Skerritt's character constantly going like Tom Skerritt's character is basically like the guy who understands like, yeah, I understand that you want to research all your stuff and that's fine, but at some point somebody has to pay for it, and that's why we're here is I'm showing people what they have to pay for.
And to be fair,
you know,
he's right. He's fucking right.
Like,
yeah, help us fucking cure
in the sense
cancer
of
or
commerce,
fix the global environment.
There's a lot of I think the interesting thing about this movie, and besides the script being, the script is fucking bad.
I mean, this is of the like major big movies that all of our parents wanted to see in theaters. I cannot, off the top of my head, think of a worse screenplay. I'm sure it exists somewhere. I don't know what
I think is like, to me, the worst part, like probably the worst crimes committed are the lines that they have to give. Fucking Matthew McConaughey, because like he's just like he's not committed to the bit. Like it's not that he's a bad actor. Like he does a good job. It's just a bad script. So anyways, it starts with that, and then we're introduced to Matthew McConaughey's character. We're not told who he is really at first, but there is like a vibe, like the shoe's about to drop with this guy.
Well,
and then
first off, when we first meet Matthew McConaughey, he's dressed like a Matthew McConaughey character, right? Like he's in like Sahara. He's sweaty. He's got half the like tits out. He's like, hey, what's up? You want to have dinner? Hey. And you know, he's doing his thing. He's here to just try to sling dick. And you're like, it's weird he's trying to get an interview for a book. You're like, but that seems like a pickup tool. That makes sense. They bang. Right. And then at the dinner, Tom Skerritt's like, Father Voss. And you're like, wait, Voss. What?
Yeah, so like basically you find out the hottest guy in the room is a man of God. And you're like, okay.
Well,
so
as
now
he says, he's
this
like,
becomes...
I'm a man of the cloth without the cloth. Because he couldn't abide celibacy. Because he's a man who knew that if there was a God, he sculpted him and his perfect body and dick to spread things and joy over the land.
Matthew McConaughey as like the hot fuckable priest is a real choice.
I have to say, this is such a fucking stupid thing that we have in the movie, but the priest I want to bang trope is one of my favorite dumb things that we've invented.
It's so dumb. And I mean, like, the gag is so hilarious. You're just like, got it. So
this is the most egregious version of that. That's not like an actual, like, pornography or asylum movie.
The problem is, too, is that the whole movie hinges on her wanting to fuck this guy the entire time. So she has to literally sit there and have an orgasmic religious experience if she wants to fuck this guy, and then admit she's seen God after he's had sex with her.
But the movie takes a fair gamble, right? Could we imagine that one night with McConaughey, and you'd be like, that was fun, I want to do that again? Not that you believe in God, but just that you're like, I'll tolerate this fucking moron's existence so I can get another one of those.
It's just such a strange... Again, this is what the movie becomes. No, the problem is it starts with the intersection, the intersection of like commerce and religion and science, like these three things that don't go together, that have to go together because that's the world we live in, which is fine. Like that's part of the argument about science in general. Hilariously, though, the representation of religion is two people. One, the hottest fucking guy that would ever believe in God ever, and then Jake Busey. Like, these are the two people in the movie that you're like, wow, boy, God.
Busey is how really I imagine religion. So, like, that was pretty spot on. But also, you're like, they shoot him like he's one of the deep blue sea sharks. You just immediately like, this is going to be a problem. Right?
That guy's got a problem.
Yeah, we shouldn't have bred that thing.
Like, is Jake Busey never doesn't look suspicious. Like, it's like...
Yeah. It's like he's pre-built in with all of the drugs his dad ever did at once, right? Yeah. But he's actually, I've always liked him as an actor. It's just in this movie.
I don't have a problem with Jake Busey. He's just so on the nose. You're just like, who's going to be the problem? That guy.
Well, when we go through the fucking flea market, right? Like now that it's out and the world's going to set up like a fucking District 9 village outside of the fucking arrays. When you see him doing his little snake oil salesman, you're like, yeah, that's right. That guy was probably just taking 12-year-old daughters somewhere in like Utah, right? But now he's like out here promoting.
This also,
we have Elvis. We have like all these people, right? This is the core of this movie that I struggle with so mightily. There's two massive fucking problems with this movie, which is one, the whole I'm going to add like an extra 40 minutes of movie to do this like relationship with her dad to the point where when she's banging McConaughey, she's thinking and talking about her dad is like the most bizarre. So that when the alien comes at the end and poses as her dad, the alien is still talking to her as if he's her actual father in like the creepiest fucking subtle ways, right? Like it's a really truly disturbing moment in the movie to me. But this whole idea that her dad wanted her to like CB random fucking truckers in Florida, right? And we're supposed to believe he was like this man of honor and science and integrity. Neither the father thing is just one of the weakest, like just cockneyed fucking, or hackneyed things I've ever seen in a movie. Like this will link to the audience because the reason they had to do this thing and fucking bloat the runtime of this movie so much is because I have never watched a movie, not Cronenberg, not Von Trier, that fucking has so little value for us as a species. This is the core problem with this movie. This movie believes truly that we are a fucking horrible little race of parasites and we do not deserve to live. Other than Jodie Foster, who I would say at best is a fucking fanatic. Not one person in this movie presents any value as part of the human race.
I think that's an oversimplification a little bit.
I'm just saying, show me one scene in that movie where you're like, I'm glad we are humans and exist. That doesn't involve Jodie Foster's final testimony.
I think to say that the movie is supposing that all human beings are assholes is
this movie fucking hates us as a species.
I would say the three people that, because here's the other thing too. Back to the Matthew McConaughey thing. Mm-hmm. Besides him being like the hottest dude who ever believed in God in the movie, the other thing about it is his whole like shtick is because he's a man of the cloth without the cloth. Because he's doing this, his other bit, like you find out, so he basically like turned down being, a kid fucker to go out and do, mission work in third world countries, which is the right way to go when you're, part of that whole thing. But the other, like he writes a lot of books and a lot of, like you find out 4 years later after they first meet, 4 years later, what you find out is he writes a lot of books about the intersection of technology and what it takes away from us as a human race. What it takes away from us, not necessarily about religion, but does it take away our humanity and that kind of
which
thing.
Is what every single dumb person thinks.
It's not necessarily what everything.
Weren't we happier before Eric could, like if I was on that show interviewing me, he's like, has technology made us happier? I'd be like, yes. How about air conditioning? How about refrigerators? How about toilets in our house? Like, what are you talking about, you dumb fucking bumpkin?
Right. I think what he's talking about, if I may, is that we are, and he's right, we are more connected than we ever were before. Yet, so in a way, we also feel very solitary and alone.
Well, weirdly, his argument works better today than it did in the mid-'90s.
Oh, no, I 1,000% agree. Like, in the mid-'90s, this is, so, to me...
I remember it was the end of the 90s where we started using AOL Instant Messenger, and that was, like, mind-blowing.
To me, the way this movie works... this movie works in a time capsule of like 97 and 99 because like the internet doesn't blow up yet. Like we only have email essentially at the moment.
And why would you ever have emailed anyone back then? That was just like a weird idea. If you weren't like a business person.
Right. Like unless you're John Hurt living on the Mir space station, there's really no reason to email anybody. So I would say the thing that this movie most reacts to, and the reason it worked in 1997 is because I think it came out after the Heaven's Gate scenario.
Well, right.
So
this movie exists
what you have
in
is
this weird, like we are grappling with, can we be a religious nation?
So what you have, right? So what you have is people who have taken religion so far to the extreme that science looks so much better in the face of religion because of the Heaven's Gate thing. So you have a movie that is asking people, like, do you believe in God or do you believe in science? I think what Carl Sagan a lot of the time, and I don't read a lot of Carl Sagan, but to me, what the movie's trying to say is, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. Like, You can be a spiritual person and still believe and still think science is correct, which is fine. What you can't do is assign this universal God to every single. This is like you can't assign a universal God or religion to every single terrestrial life form out there. It's impossible.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, right?
Wrong.
It's okay to be spiritual in the sense of having awe in some greater thing. That
of
maybe
course.
we are. This is what Jodie Foster says. This is her other kind of dumb thing where she's like, why do you want to do this? Besides that, she's just obsessed with fucking everyone giving her credit for everything.
Right.
And every man in the movie's constantly bodying her and being a piece of shit. She's like, what if I get one small answer to why we're here? And you're like, no, we won't. Like, it won't matter.
Yeah,
you
I
went
don't
up
know.
there and it didn't fucking matter to anyone. And now her life is going to be fucking miserable the rest of her life like a fucking Doctor Who companion. So let's just fucking throw this out. This fucking white Christian landscape that this whole battle's fought on, right? The problem is it's okay to be spiritual and have awe in the creation we are. Believe that there is some purpose. The problem is when you turn it into this fucking Diet Coke, Chad Kroger Jesus that Rob Lowe and McConaughey believe in. Yeah. That's fucking insane. What if these fucking creatures that are now reaching out to us, what if they were somehow involved in our creation? What if they are fucking God?
Right.
Right? And
well,
it's just
let's not get into let's not talk about Prometheus yet, all right, please. Like
I mean, honestly, Prometheus script is fucking 300 times better than this, and that's a fucking shocking admission for me. This is the problem. The whole movie has to be fought on this battle. The core of the reality is that the white Christian headspace is correct. And it's fucking crazy.
So I wouldn't they're not. Neither of them are correct. Like, this is the problem with the movie.
No, she's correct.
One,
they're wrong.
Right. So this is the problem with the movie, really, is that it's a movie. Like, this is the kind of thing, this is not, like, this is 97. We have not decided that we can make great TV yet. Because this, to me, is like a TV series.
No, this would be an unwatchable 10 episodes.
If you do, like, incorrect. If you do, like, a 20, if you did, like, a 10-episode miniseries or something about like this, that'd probably work a little better because then you actually have the ability to play out these arguments. You cannot do this in 2.5 hours. Those concepts are so heady. It is hard to do that conversation. They try to do it 3 times. The worst one is at like the ball or whatever they're at when they find out that it's it gets leaked that it's a machine. When they're out on the terrace and fucking Matthew McConaughey and her arguing whether or not Jesus is real, essentially being like, well, you don't have any proof.
Right.
Like, where's the proof that God is real? He's like, did you love your father?
Yes.
Prove it. It's like, that's not even close to the same fucking thing.
Well, this is the thing, because Christians in this country have fucking invented this fucking jujitsu of like childish argument, which is when you just say everything's fate, that's fine. 10 episodes is not going to, I mean, this movie doesn't have enough story for the 2.5 hour runtime.
But either way, what I'm saying is that the straw man argument that they have to do to get through the movie can play out better if you have the time. They don't. It doesn't matter. Like, the format that it's presented in as a movie.
I think the issue is that they needed us at the end. We needed to vindicate her and the journey we've been on. And when they cut to this like X-Files moment where it's like, she recorded 18 hours of static. And he's like, ain't that interesting? And we just do this into fucking Raiders of the Lost Ark, X-Files. I think we need to vindicate.
We have not talked yet about the James Woods of it all. Like, because to me,
because him and McConaughey and Lowe are all kind of the same.
Hang on.
thing.
To me, James Woods essentially is the avatar for everybody in the movie. Everybody in the movie who sucks comes into like is funneled into the James Woods character.
He's our Ted Cruz.
Because precisely. Like, I was talking with our friend Evan last night, and I was like, yeah, I'm watching Contact. I'm like, Ted Cruz must watch this movie and just jerk off and be like, I'm going to be like that today. Like, and he literally spends the entire time making fun of her.
Because the movie says he won the movie?
Because the movie says he won the movie.
Because at the end, she's fucking doing, like, kindergarten fucking exposés on her antenna.
Like, because that really is like the problem is, there is like proof or some weird anomaly here. So what do you want to do? And just bury it? I don't know. I don't want anyone to know that this is the thing.
Yeah.
So
I just think that's a really sad place for the movie to end after 2.5 hours.
It's depressing but it also is probably accurate.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong there. You're not wrong there.
I mean, there's nothing that doesn't make me think, I bet that's happened at least 4 times in the span of human history, particularly in American history. Dude. At least 4 times we've been like, bury that important thing. Yeah. We don't want anyone to know about
Without fucking Tom DeLonge from Blink-182, we would never be closer to aliens. I mean, this shit happens all the time.
Yeah. Abraham Zapruder and Tom DeLonge are the 2 people that have been trying to tell us the truth the whole time.
So let's talk about this kind of as like a mini version of the whole film, right? Because it just makes these strange choices, right? We went on the journey with her.
Yeah.
I had forgotten in the film. I thought I remembered that she just wakes up and tells the story, and also I thought that was like 70% of the movie, not like the last 30 minutes.
Oh, you forgot that she went on the journey?
In my brain, she falls through, wakes up, and she's like, "Did you see it?" And so
if you want to talk about,
the movie's asking us to do a faith in science or faith in religion.
Yes.
So I've always thought that was an interesting debate, right? The problem is the movie shows us for 10 minutes that she's traveling through everywhere. We see the beach scene with her dad, whatever that abomination was. We at least see it. He at least tells her there's tons of us. The engineers from Prometheus built all this shit 1 billion years ago. We don't know. We just fucking send the blueprints around. That's fine. That scene is so fucking rough. But what they do, right, is they show us that we've been on this journey. And then ask us to fucking turn on the only character we've liked in the whole movie and say she's probably hallucinating because T. Cruz is fucking whipping softballs at her. And it's baffling. It's a baffling decision because when she comes out and there's no evidence. There's no scientific proof. This is what we saw from 40 cameras. I was like, this is really a great place for this movie. Like, this is where this movie works really well, where they're saying, you're the scientist, right? You look at this set of data and what would you say if it was the Tom Skerritt's character, right? And she goes, I have to concede. That works really well. That is where this movie fucking operates and is great.
Right. No, I don't disagree with you. Like, this is a very good part of the movie. This is the part of the movie I probably enjoy the most is that section because we've experienced this journey with her, which I would argue
should have been like 25 minutes into the movie.
I would argue the moment where the beach scene isn't very good, only to be eclipsed by the scenes before where she's like, because basically she keeps recording and talking through what's happening to her.
They should have sent a poet. Oh.
Don't get me started on that shit. Literally one of the worst lines in an entire movie. Like, I've never witnessed something so stupid.
Words can't describe, but the barista around my corner, he could capture this feeling.
But then, like, whatever that weird little, whatever that weird side face that keeps happening while she's like, like, we never knew. They're alive. Like, I'm like, stop this. Stop it right now.
That is, I would say if I were fucking doing the final, like, I'm running Zemeckis down as a fucking prosecutor.
Yeah.
I would just play that 15 minutes of the movie and be like, you failed us. You stole money from the studios. You stole minutes from us.
For me, what I'd probably be like, this is like when you're in Final Cut and you're sitting there with your studio exec, be like, are you really going to keep that shit in there? Like, just have her experience it. Why are you throwing in extras, man? That's fine. If we got to sit through this, don't make us sit through it and make it partly religious too. I don't need any sort of effervescent spirit head sidelining us.
Right.
Like, I don't need commentary from her other id.
No, it's because this is the thing. The movie has these big chunks that are really good. It just always fucking comes back to these bafflingly horrible moments, right? Where her discovering the sound, right? Fucking awesome scene, right? The mechanics of that scene, the pacing of that scene, the rhythmic nature of this
things are scientific
is fucking awesome.
I think when things are scientific, like, this is the thing that the movie does very well.
Yeah. When
things are scientific and that kind of shit shouldn't be like the things that aren't. It's like this reverse of the things that should be exciting in this movie are not exciting at all. The things that should
they try to add the actiony sci-fi stuff, and it just fucking falls on deaf ears.
The things that should never be exciting in this movie are probably among the most gripping moments in the whole movie. Like that sequence of like getting back to the main lab and setting everything up when James
the
Woods
sound
and Tom
disappears
Skerritt
for a
show
minute,
up.
and then that touch and
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that
Awesome.
shit is great.
Oh my God, William Fichtner discovers like the second layer of sound, like
Yes.
the
unraveling of the
moments,
puzzle. Because this is the thing, this movie, in those moments, it's more Arrival, right?
Yeah.
And then there's
I
these
think-
other moments where it's like somehow like an even more vague Interstellar.
That's exactly what I wrote. I wrote down, I was like, there is parts of Interstellar in here that these are the parts of Interstellar I don't like.
But it's so much worse than that. Like, it's almost like as if it were like a fucking Hallmark version of it. Like, this one really makes Interstellar look metal as fuck. That's another. Again, these concepts, this and the fact, like these big kind of like concepts, are really hard to translate into a film.
I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily. I can't lump The Fountain into this simply because there's no science. There's the basis in science is so limited.
That
like,
one is limited, but it has at least like the funk of that. But at least like The Fountain and Interstellar, at least they're like if we're gonna make this, we have something we want to say.
Right. Well, like this and Interstellar, this and Interstellar essentially fall under the category for me of like hard sci-fi movies where someone's trying as hard as possible to do real world application of whatever science fiction concept we're conceiving of. Like in Interstellar, it's it's interdimensional intergalactic travel. With this, it's not just that, but it's also about the application of it to modern society and what it is, what it does to affect religion.
It is a
what it does to affect
ballsy
commerce. All
place
these other
for
pieces. All these other pieces other pieces are like, what is it going to touch and change about the way we live in the modern world?
It's a hard time because Prometheus suffers this too, where it's like, as a filmmaker, I want to fucking put an exact ribbon on why we exist in the universe. I'm going to answer the one question that's driven mankind nuts since the cave days. And it's like, nope, you're never going to get there.
And I think that's the other part too. I think this is actually the thing I find the most frustrating about that beach scene is when she's like, why did you contact us? You contact us because you find out. I didn't know that we sent radio waves from the fucking.
Well, we didn't. Germany did. How about that though? That's a scene that was shockingly chilling today. Is when they go to the like fucking flea market that surrounded the arrays, and they're just like Hitler lives again, and you're like, yeah, that's a real thing that we've seen. That's a thing that is real and fucking terrifying in the world. Like, imagine all of the white supremacists are like, wait, they sent us back Hitler in the
sick.
Oh, dude, that was actually chilling because I was like, those fucks are back anyways.
Yeah, that's legit. There's something very realistic about that. I would say that the major that implication is far more troubling than the religious implications. Like, and I mean, James Woods constantly being like, yeah, we agree with you. Do you think maybe they're saying they agree with him? I'm like, shut up, dude. Like, that's
like even in her hearing, right? Where McConaughey's like, you know what I'm going to do? The woman I love, I'm going to fucking roast a torpedo. C7, battleship sunk. And he just goes, do you believe in God? And like, this is a panel from around the world and none of them go, hey, we don't either. Like, we have our own gods. Like, does everyone stop and say, hey, do you believe in Krishna? Then the one weird guy in the corner has been jerking off. Hey, do you believe in Xenu? It's like, whoa, come on now. That's insane. That's too weird of a fake story for us. But okay, I'll say this, though. I do like the manifestation. I like Jake Busey's character. In the scene where he blows up the machine, that whole scene of introducing the machine, where Tom Skerritt does the, I wish we lived in a world where fair was the bottom line. And she's like, I thought the world's what we made it. All right,
Tom
cool
Skerritt's
moment.
such a dick. Like,
Tom Skerritt is awesome in this movie, though. I love Tom Skerritt. But
he's great.
Jake
He's just
Busey
the character is
being
written
there,
as such an asshole.
Well, for sure. Every single character in this movie is begging us to want to see the end of the human race.
I got to tell you, the security detail for that major machine that costed $350 billion for the entire world, security could have been a little tighter. I mean, you can't tell that a guy who like looks like this does this.
Yeah.
isn't
That
a bad guy.
guy. I don't even think he should
That
hold a
guy.
wrench. That's not a guy who should even hold a wrench around another human being.
Yeah, I don't want that guy up here.
Yeah, that's just one of those we have to trust our guttural instinct. We fucking survive saber-toothed tiger's instinct.
Yeah, that's one of those.
But that
I don't think that guy
scene
should be
is
here today.
fucking righteous. Like, again, this
It
is the when Zemeckis is going, he's going. The mechanics and the pacing of that scene are fucking wonderful. And when they blow up the machine, it's fucking wonderful. The idea that we've done this as a species, right? That we're going to put some trust in, or at least we're willing to take a step to the stars, right? Whatever the fuck is going to happen. And to see a fucking buffoon explode this, probably with the help of other people that don't like this machine either, right? And then his fucking terrorist tape comes out about this is for God and evolution, all that shit. You're like, yep. Sadly, we've seen that kind of shit too. That was a fucking righteous segment of the film. That segment fucking rips. And then they just fucking step on their dick again because this whole scene becomes a Pixar scene. Oh no, Olaf's dead. Just kidding. Oh no, Elsa's sister got frozen. Just kidding. She's fine. Like, you know, Pixar and Disney love to do this now where they just kill a character. So we cry in the theater and then like 5 minutes later it's like, just kidding, because there's no consequences to any storytelling. And it fucking sucks. That's what this is. The moment where we as a species, and this movie liberally does fucking 4 to 5 year time jumps constantly. So what's another one? The idea that Jodie Foster's character for 5 to 10 more years has to keep fighting and saying, hey, we should rebuild this machine, right? This is still worth it. In the face of the terrorist act and the money, that becomes a better place for this movie to exist than John Hurt upside down saying, hey, we built another one.
You're saying that there's not a time jump.
No, I'm saying there are constant time jumps of 4 to 5 year gaps as they move forward in time.
But between the one blowing up and the one that they built
I understand.
in Japan,
What I'm saying is there should have been. When she goes
Oh,
to John
okay,
Hurt
cool.
upside
Sorry.
down and it's
Go
like,
ahead.
because we're criminals and billionaires and governments, we stole money to build another one. That is such a this is the problem with this movie. The arrogance and stupidity of that beat.
To be clear, they built that thing in record time. Like,
well, I'm assuming they were
maybe
building
took
them both simultaneous, right? The other one's just like
no, not the new. No, I'm talking about the original one that they blew up. Jake Busey blew up. That thing got built in like literally a month.
Well,
in movie time.
That's just bad directing, but I think they said it was 5 years. The problem, I think there's an actual cut that says 4 or 5 years later, which they love doing that. Here's the thing.
I mean, great.
When you take away and just do here's another reason to hate us as a species, right? Billionaires and corrupt government. We know in the poster she's going to this fucking Xenu-like planet. So the fact that they built this amazingly tense scene, we see the human carnage. Again, this is a movie that happened before 9/11, so reminiscent of these kind of moments that we've all lived through. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, we're sitting there grappling with the weight of how fucking dumb we are as a species, how one person can fucking fail all of us. And the movie, instead of grappling with that at a faith and government and science level, says, hey, just go get your fucking weird message from John Hurt. We'll immediately do the same beat. Right? So one, are any of us sad that we now live in a world without Tom Skerritt or Jake Busey's character? No. So there's no fucking emotional impact to that moment whatsoever. It's just another reason to hate us times 2. And we never sit and actually grapple with our fucking fear in the face of this greater thing. It's a moment that is just so fucking wasted. Because that moment should sit on us heavy.
I'm not sure that's accurate. I would say that the fear of here's the thing. When you think about it, the fear of this happening, the fear of what Jake Busey does is live, again, this is a religious extremist essentially. It's a heaven's gate guy. He's a terrorist, and it is to go to another world, to experience, to see something that it puts us in a situation where we are not the only ones. We are not alone. To prove that we are not alone out there probably would scare a lot of people. And again, this goes to...
Yeah, it would have been awesome if the movie delved more into that. Yeah, for sure.
Agreed. However, We're on a time crunch.
I think there'd be a lot more Jake Buseys, yeah.
In 1997, we only had 2.5 hours. So, now you could do this in 3 and probably be, have a great time.
Yeah.
Because they make 3-hour movies now. But, I think that the fear to me almost gets washed away. Like when that thing blows up, there is this essence of relief because it's like, oh, we've flown too close to the sun. It's like an Icarus thing. We've flown too close to the sun. We got so close to doing this, and now it's gone away. There is this like sense of relief, like maybe,
but
we
not
won't
for the
have
audience, though, right? Maybe for the citizenry.
Hang on.
Not for the audience.
Like what I'm saying is what you do is sit there. You're with Ellie, and Ellie's like, oh my god, like now we no longer can stand in the light of discovery. There's no discovery to be had. We know we had it and we lost it. So the sense of adventure is still there. The fear of the unknown is what replaces what you're talking about. Because then once you realize that John Hurt built another one with, I'm assuming, mob money, or whatever other money there is available on the planet, because the cost implications alone, I can't even wrap my head around. But regardless, the fear of the unknown as she steps into that pod, I think that's probably the thing that thing is what keeps me engaged when the fear of the fear of going in the first place is gone.
Sure.
Like,
I understand the nature of her, once more into the breach in the pod. I'm saying if you're going to build this set piece where we blow up our one connection to possibly get the answers, and then immediately we're like, gotcha, there's another one, as if it were a Pixar character to make our kids cry. Like if the Titanic hits the iceberg and it's like, jump to the next Titanic, and we just finished the romance story on a new boat, it invalidates the beat. It invalidates the beat of this movie. The only thing it does is reinforce that we are a corrupt species and that the government and this billionaire are corrupt, which we already know.
But why can't that be the reinforced beat? Like, I get what you're saying, and I understand the validity of it. I just think that,
if Olaf dies, he should fucking stay dead.
Okay, well, but that's a Disney movie. We're not talking about Disney. We're talking about,
essentially. But this is what I'm saying.
No, we're not talking about Disney movies, though.
This movie is most interesting, right? When it's us as a species grappling with this paradigm-altering discovery. So the fact that we know that there are people, we've seen this in our own world now. There are people who are that religious who are never going to believe it and say it's a hoax, or they'll try to, look what God did now. He made a second planet. They're not going to change, right? The government trying to control and weasel and make money, this and that. The movie is most interesting in these moments where we're debating how we as a people are going to proceed. And never are we going to proceed based on logic, it appears, right? That's where the movie gets interesting. This is a moment that you could really have wielded that headspace, right? We really could have sat with Ellie having righteous indignation and fury at our species for being so small and stupid. For the government saying, we don't think it's worth investing more money. Tim McConaughey saying, hey, I bet God did it. Right? Like, we could have had that argument in a more interesting fashion. But instead, we just reset the beat and it means nothing.
Well, look, man. If we're going to do that, the whole movie doesn't need to exist, to be honest with you. Like, there is, a problem with the movie. You're talking about a microcosm of the movie itself, which is that...
I'm saying this is one of those decisions they make throughout the movie that I don't understand.
But what you're saying is essentially the problem with the movie is that all of these things are... there are these great heady concepts to discuss in this movie that we have to move on from in favor of spectacle, which sucks. And I don't disagree with that. Right. But that's the problem with the movie at large. I still like this movie a lot. And the problem with the movie is that we can't sit with these beats because we have got to finish the movie. We still have movie to watch. That's probably the bigger problem with the whole thing is that with more movie to watch and with let's just say it, with a Robert Zemeckis spectacle on the horizon, you can't just stop the movie to actually have those conversations. as we have never been able to do in a Robert Zemeckis science fiction film. There's never been a moment. There's literally a 5-minute beat in every single Robert Zemeckis science fiction film where they talk about this, and they're like, all right, cool, are we done? Can we get to the next cool thing? Great, let's do it. There's Back to the Future Part 2, they do this for 5 minutes where they explain alternate timelines, like, all right, are we done? Let's get back to the super cool DeLorean. Thank you. Like, that is a filmmaking problem. I'm not saying Robert Zemeckis is a shitty filmmaker, but I'm saying that is a filmmaking problem as opposed to like a writing problem or just a vibe problem in general. Right. That you and I think, would prefer to see a movie that examines this actual thing as opposed to, okay, yeah, we'll reset the beat and then we'll move on to the next thing. And we'll get to this like big, spectacle, cool thing where we show up and the aliens are like, thanks for contacting us. Did you build this? No, we don't know where it came from. Sorry.
I'm just saying
cool,
they're
thanks for the
trying
answer.
to do both at the same time, and they kind of cripple both constantly.
Well, and that's why
So it is a writing problem. It is a Zemeckis problem because he's like, no, that's the movie I want to make.
But this is why I said earlier, like, if you had a longer run, if you had like if this was like 2020 or whatever, obviously 2020 is a bad reference, but like 2018, 2023 at this point, if you had the run to do like a 6-episode TV series, this is the kind of thing that comes up in writers' rooms. You're like, oh, let's do a TV series about contact, blah, 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 that kind of thing. The problem is we're making a 2.5-hour movie directed by Robert Zemeckis, and Robert Zemeckis doesn't do those kinds of things.
Right.
That's all. I mean, like, it's a matter of the economy of filmmaking, and I think a Carl Sagan novel is a hard push to make a blockbuster film out of. Like,
well, I mean, that is really the most interesting choice in the film is why would you make this kind of a movie or book into this kind of a movie? Right? I mean, like, that is where the disconnect happened first and constantly.
I mean, to me, what it is, and this is like the whole point of the Jake Busey and Matthew McConaughey characters, because really what the movie does is it spends an inordinate amount of time discussing religious extremism and why, like, there is so much time spent on the difference between science and religion in like conversation with these characters for no reason other than just to point out that those are two completely different things. And it's a weird thing to me to spend so much time on it, yet we don't really do any deep, like you said, we've been talking about the whole time. We do no deep diving into that concept other than these terrible moments between these two characters with like, well, I believe in science. Well, religion can factor into that too. I also believe in science, but I mean, does it really make you happy? Yes, it does. Cool. I guess that's the end of the scene. Let's get out of here. Like, that's right. Like, well, the moments.
This is another thing the movie does that, again, it's just like, it's constantly like great scene, head scratcher. That is kind of the rhythm of this film. Jodie Foster being interrogated is a fucking awesome scene. Mm-hmm. And what they do, because no one comes in and does we have the evidence, right? They leave her out to dry and reduce her to where now she is a fucking mystic the same as McConaughey.
Right.
They ask us, the audience, to tolerate that thought, which we won't because we went on this long fucking cartoon journey with her. So they ask us, they say, hey, will you accept the fact that she could be wrong? And they're like, no, we fucking saw it. Like, we went on the journey that we were promised, the titular contact. We were there. And we walk outside, and somehow she's still friends with McConaughey, even though he's been nothing but a piece of shit since their first bang. Right? And she walks outside, and they're like, but it's cool. Don't feel bad for this poor woman. There is now a cult of Ellie. So we look out and see this fucking sea of blue. And they're like, Ellie, we believe you. Right. But if you pause back, you say, wait, these are all fucking people that also have zero fucking evidence that she saw anything because the government suppressed it. Right. So now the movie is saying we spent the whole movie, in theory, I'm guessing a lot of people watching it were on McConaughey's side. We spent the whole movie saying these people of faith and government, their belief in these systems is so small-minded, they're handcuffing the movie. Why can't they be smarter? But at the end, when we see all these fucking people that on faith alone are now going to build their entire personalities and wear blue around this cult of Ellie, we're supposed to say, awesome. No, those are the same fucking dumb people we've been supposed to hate the whole movie. It's just now they're on our team? No!
It's not a great way.
That's what I mean. Amazing scene. Like, Jodie Foster crushes this scene. It's a masterclass in acting. And then I'm left scratching my head. So, in closing, what I'll say is that this movie, when it's at its best, you can see that Zemeckis magic. Stunning cast, doing great work, right? It's just, again, I cannot escape that rhythm of the film. It constantly, every time it pulls me in, it fucking kicks me in the face, Spartan style, back out of the movie. And so I find myself really torn between, because this idea of this great moment that's going to change everything. In watching how this cross-section of our pillars of society, right? Science, God, money, government react. I think is a great place for this movie to exist. They just constantly are trying to make like a blockbuster movie out of it.
Yeah.
And so like the pillars, the movie's constantly in battle with itself.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a hard sell for a big blockbuster movie. And I don't think that's the kind of movie it is. And I agree. I think there are better ways to present the arguments that they're trying to argue. And really, the whole movie should have been this. The whole movie should have been basically like The Contender, where Ellie's on trial the whole time, and we just sort of see flashes. I don't need the fucking backstory of, I think by putting us in Ellie's driver's seat, and so we are only experiencing Ellie, it sort of compromises our ability to objectively, make our own decisions. Like, the decisions for us are being made by the movie.
There's no debate for the audience, right? Every person we meet that's not Ellie sucks, and we went on the journey.
Like, I don't love that. It's just not. It's not really. It just does. It's not conducive to storytelling that I think is interesting, and I don't think that's how. I mean, from my understanding, that's not how Carl Sagan worked, and it's weird that it basically just made all the decisions for the audience. It's very strange. Yeah,
I think it's wanting to ask us questions and have us think about it, but it reduces our ability to ponder.
Yeah, and yet I still love it. I do enjoy this film considerably.
Again, there's just a power behind this movie. And again, I think if nothing else, it becomes this interesting examination of when movies get this big, it changes how you must approach the storytelling for better or worse. Absolutely. I think this is a really interesting case study to show young aspirational filmmakers, because then they could all be like, I do this, I shoot like this, and it's like, well, but there's a lot of fucking money on the line. There's a lot of voices in the room, right? Yeah. How do you shoot crisis of faith, right? There's a lot of those. As this movie gets more milquetoast and fucking flat, sometimes medium is king, right? And sometimes the budget is the king.
Well, I mean, how do you shoot crisis of faith in an alien movie? Science.
Right. Where they show us literally everything and don't let us fucking ponder.
Yeah. Science. That's how you do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a fascinating movie to discuss, even though I wouldn't per se that I'm a fan of this movie. But when it's at its highs, it's really, really fucking good. Yeah, and then there are some like head scratchers, right? So you get a good podcast conversation out of it, if nothing else. That's it for Contact. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed the aliens invading the pod. Happy 5 years, Alex. It's been a fun ride.
Oh, happy 5 years, bud. Haven't we had fun? Are we going to do 5 more? Or is this the end? Is this the last October?
We'll see if we survive October. If the numbers spike huge after October, I think we've got at least another 4 months in us. I feel good.
I think we've got a shot at another month and a half.
Yeah. So enjoy these while they last. They could be sparse. All right, guys, make sure you go to the Patreon, Film Alchemist pod, or patreon.com/Film Alchemist pod. The email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the socials you're on, mostly. The YouTube, Film Alchemist. Guys, if you want to watch some short films I've been making, go to misfitparade.net or find Misfit Parade on all the social media apps you're on. Making some short films over there, some short horse stuff. So you can come talk about how bad my writing is and my directing is. Go over and do that.
I want to say this. So for those of you who've been with us from the beginning or who came with us along the way, thank you very much. 5 years is a big accomplishment.
It really
and
is.
The fact that we've been doing this for 5 years it's bizarre to me because it doesn't feel like 5 years, and that mostly has to do with the fact that you guys engage with us. So for that, I really appreciate it.
I do too, man. Yeah, because there's no way we would do, on average, about 110 episodes a month and put in all this time and effort and pain if we didn't love it and love the community we built here. So yeah, samesies. Thank you guys so much. You are the rocket fuel that drops us through a ring into the net. Thank you for that.
We believe you. You are our 18 hours of static.
Whatever you fucking say, we're just going to believe it blindly.
We believe that 18 hours of static, that's you. We're not sweeping you under the rug. That's for sure.
All right. If someone hates us, that would be the best review. 1 star, 18 hours of static. Don't do it. I'm just saying. 5 stars.
I know one of you guys is going to do it.